The third one was the bisex fish, which was both. Then I did not know if it was pollution which did that fish we saw, or it was gene mutation or breeding. So I asked you to explain on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a comment. My name is Masigi Ryan from Society. We had a presentation with Jen. It's not here. That was for African parks model of the land conservation. And that, to me, raises the question of conservation financing. How do we fund conservation? As we all know, conservation is an expensive, easy. So I think it's a question of policy makers in each country to think how we to fund the needs for conservation. And for me, the African parks model looks interesting. That out there in the world, there are a lot of private money available that can support conservation. When I think of Tanzania, we have 20 national parks, but we know only 5 national parks can sustain itself in terms of conservation. The rest of the national parks are really not generating any income. So that means the whole burden of the government to protect these parks. So I think here is something that's put forward for policymakers to think, how can we access the free money available out there in the world to come to support these conservation models, to support conservation. And I think as we saw for African parks, the way they are running now 22 national parks in 12 countries in Africa for the last 10 years. I think it is something interesting. So in Tanzania, I think it's something to look about, to see how our policies are positioned to attract these available global financing for conservation.
Mr. Bill, we may need the update of that one.
Thank you. My name is Theo. The gentleman who is Zumba, after work, depth, greatness and depth. Now, talk about the greatness. When we talk about greatness, about species, we know that it is 5% species. I want to know from your studies, which species so far are either brink of extinction or highly endangered, and after you found, what is the position of this? The other question is to the environmental chemist from Nigeria, who is now in North Fork. He said that he's there by accident. That's what he said. But it's good, because probably we will not grow an amount of depth of knowledge if you are already here at home. But now you are one. Our focus here is wildlife. So far, what have we achieved in all these fields? The chemistry of plastics and all those sciences through the marines, other streams and all that is dangerous. Why is your study not focused also on marine life? We know that we are confronted, but we want to know how much also life in seas are affected. By this, tell us
Sorry, for those who will be asking questions, please, for the sake of time, could you go straight to the questions so that we have some time for our please to respond. That was the first round. Do we have somebody else who wants to go to this first round? Well, I see none. But as for what Masakere said, I think that is something that would need some sort of discussion. I don't think there is anybody here who would be in a position to kind of. People need to get to understand what is it all about. I know the stories have started for quite some time back. But it would be good to find out what's actually happening in these areas where Africans are working. I also forgot a very story of our sister from Zambia. She was asking about balance sharing and what is happening in Zambia. They have this 50-50 community 50 and the central government 50. Not sure if there is someone to respond from the central government here. I mean, Minister, will you be able to respond to that? And I'll give you time to respond to that. In the meantime, let me allow them to respond to the question that have been raised. Who starts? Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Good afternoon again. The first question by the gentleman on connectivity. I think it's a nice example of how relatively simple research into where electrons used to pass led to a process which is very obvious. Actually, my friend Trevor has talked about that. They eventually also influenced the policy, because now we have a national legislation for corridor being assessed and so on. So we did the first step in the sense of assessing the status of this corridor, whether they were still used or not, the threat, fires, livestock, agriculture. And then we ask ourselves which corridor makes sense to restore, and from there the process that Trevor has talked about started, which is an organic corridor. I go back 1 year and I go back, so I don't know if Trevor wants to add something later. I come to the second question. I'm not sure I completely understood it, but so we made work at the level of populations, and we found some populations who have gone to almost near extinction. And we know that some got extinct. I showed the example of the forest in the south, where there were evidence of elephants, buffaloes, leopards being there in the 70s. We even have some records there in 2000, and then we haven't found them before. Now, when a species is endemic, it's very narrow range. We have the San Giovanni, for example, which has only 2 populations. If one population is very present, that's the first step towards species extinction. So then it's an alert, and that's why protection needs to be enforced and other measures. Your point, the answer. I don't know if
yeah, good afternoon, everyone. I think the gentleman was referring to the documentation of the blockage of the Reaper corridor in the Southern Valley, Zumba and Sulu. That was indeed just like one factor. There were a few different studies that led to the national assessment of wildlife corridors that happened in 2009 for Tauru. And I think that in turn influenced the 2009 Wildlife Act. And then, in fact, not just research but implementation of attempts to restore corridors around the country. For example, built momentum as well until the government released the wildlife corridor regulations in 2018. And even since that that time there were more corridor restoration projects going on in our maintenance building. Those regulations allow for the minister to announce intention to designate a corridor. Up to now that has not happened, but I think we're very hopeful that can be the next step. Some of these successful corridor restoration projects that are going on will be recognized and corridor regulations can be tested. So it's kind of a dynamic and a combination of research and implementation projects that we done.
Thank you very much. First of all, your question was so elaborate. I didn't understand it very well. I will be very glad if you can ask the question again. But first, I want to respond to the brother there told us about the fish within assets phenomenon. If I want to answer you this question, which I think is very, very important, that you asked, it will be like an hour lecture. I will try to answer it in a very simple and direct way. One, the phenomenon we saw there is not because of genetic modification or what you call it, you know. So the answer to that is no, and I will explain. In those situations are what we call when you have the testes and the ovary in one animal, you call it, if it's a male fish, you call it the testis ovary. And if it is a female fish, you call it ovotestis. So those phenomena are classical effects that you see when an individual is exposed to environmental contaminants. In toxicology, we believe that the effect of environmental contaminants to an individual, it doesn't matter whether it's a human being or any animal, depends directly on at which stage the animal's developmental process the animal was exposed. So, for example, we call it artificial fertilization. Me and you, we are males. It doesn't matter how much estrogen the women hormone that me and you put in our body today, we will never make babies. Okay? And the opposite is also true. It doesn't matter how much testosterone you give to a woman, she might get months to get years, but she will never be able to impregnate another woman. Those are two processes. Those are what is happening to those fish. So those fish you saw here, the male fish will never be able to lay egg. And similarly, the female fish will never be able to impregnate or maybe fertilize an egg from another individual. We have also seen that if you put those fish away from the contaminated environment, it might take 6 months to 1 year. They will reabsorb the opposite sex that made them not what they are. They will reabsorb it and become normal again. So the question is when they are in that condition, can they be able to fertilize or produce proteins, which goes directly to decrease the biodiversity for those kind of effects. Okay? So I don't know whether that is the direct answer to your question. Okay? Then, my brothers, you can ask your question again. I can understand what you meant. You have to respond.
Thank you. Actually, what you answered is not what I asked, but somebody behind asked. Let me put it like this. When those massive damage to show us from a crash happened, what were the impacts on the ocean? Thank you.
So, if I understand you correctly, you were asking what the impact of those plastic in those environments mean, right? Yes. I showed you that those plastics, they were enormous. Again, the Accra phenomenon is unique. It's not, endemic situation in Accra. I showed you this is in Nigeria. It's everywhere you go. I'm sure that it's something here in Africa, here in Tanzania too. The contaminants that make plastic flexible, we say that those contaminants, talent extracts, bisphenol, they are not covalently bound to the plastic polymer. They are added there to make the plastic less, but they are not part of plastic. So under this environmental condition, change in pH, which is a quantifiable variable of climate change in temperature, those contaminants will leak out of the plastic and become an integral contamination in the environment. And they are the things that get out of food resources or aquatic environment, aquatic resources that we eat, and then it becomes like a vicious cycle. If you understand my point.
Just want to give some contribution on the question from Zoological Society regarding to fundraising and the investment on the conservation area. We in Mozambique, we are having almost around 40% of our conservation area get part of this fund. And in 2018, we organized a kind of international symposium also to discuss not only stewardship, including concession and quality management. And after that, we jumped from around 30 million pounds from different donors to 400 million dollars for a range of 20 years of conservation. And also we got support from Global Wildlife Program, and now they have developed similar. They developed collaborative management toolkit. I think Jane had showed in her presentation. That toolkit is a kind of from A to Z how you can do and what to avoid and what to do and how to select your partner to do a collaborative management. And at different levels, the basic one is technical and financial assistance. That is the basic. That means the state is still running the conservation area. The partner brings some resources and aid on conservation, on technicals. The other one is co-management itself. That was the model that the African part presented in those 3 levels. That the state is still there, but the way how they run the daily show, the management of the park is given to a partner. And that partner who is elected, it should ensure that they have done a feasibility study for their park. It should ensure that they have done a kind of business plan, and also have a strategy on how to bring, how to mobilize the funds. For our situation, what we are demanding, at least from the business plan, the first 5 years, the partner has to say, I had secured 10 million, 5 million to be co-manager or a partner for technical assistance on that part. We do have 4 parks, national parks, that are in the co-management. We start with the Gorongosa National Park, the negotiation of debt agreement to more or less 3 years, because at that time also we didn't have legislation to cut those principles. But then after we had the PPP law and regulation, because all the national parks are public goods and they have to be under PPP law if you get some inputs or funding from private sector for us. And those were the key frameworks that we got beside this toolkit today. And on the basis of that, we start engaging with partners that show interest, like African partners, discussing what they're doing for. And still, the difficulties is to have the oversight committee well defined and who is running the day-to-day show. For us now, we give to the partner, but state the partner wardens will be chosen by the state. And then they have to take it. And this helps to gather more money from philanthropics to bring to the table. And those partners, they should not do business or commercial activities with goods from the partner. And then they have to be different inside an NGO foundation to take to it.
Yeah, as I said, I think this is something that needed a little bit of discussion, and this may not be the right time for it, but at least we've heard, of what is going on in other parts of the continent.
I want to ask you a question
Well, I think we had a very interesting presentation, the last presentation there. I strongly believe that it's worth some discussion because your presentation and your presentation. I know that some people have a very deceptive way of interpreting the so-called Vancouver Convention that dealt with the religion people for authorship based on their constitution and the scientific project, scientific paper. And this discussion is something that you encounter all the time and every day. And some people try to, misinterpret this concept just for their own personal purpose. Before I ask my question, where I was born in Nigeria, we believe that when somebody finishes eating and say thank you for the food, that thank you for the food does not go to only to the person that made the food, which is the cook. It goes to the person that brought the firewood, the person that did the firewood, and the person that helped to pound the vegetable that goes into the food. And all of them get credit for the food. This is how applies to scientific production. So the question that people like me and most people, and this my friend here, you hear more about this tomorrow, does is that in a scientific production, is there any contribution that without it, there would have been any better? If the answer to that is no, everybody that contributed gets accredited for it, not as brokers. But I know a lot of people manipulate this concept. So my question to you guys is, why is it like that? Because you mentioned that everywhere without contributing part of developing country from here. Well, just not to disappoint you, it will never happen. Just like you. But is there any way one can go into the memorandum of understanding that says, because I don't understand why somebody will collect data and somebody will go publish it without your consent and without your recognition and you let it be. So why is it like that? Is it an institution of failure here, or is it something else? If you can respond to that, I would appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Just to begin, I think you said that the possibility of this rejection is there, but I would like to tell you that there are some journals that have actually started doing Lancet. Lancet has got as one of its policies that for any kind of publication manuscript that is submitted from the South, but that has used data from the South but doesn't have local collaborators, that's a rejection. So it has studied in other fields. So why should the field of conservation biology be important? Because conservation, why is it happening in this field? So there's a possibility of doing that. It's just I think it's just So, I mean, one of the aims of our paper is just to raise this awareness of what is happening, because as you pointed out, there was sort of a lack of empirical evidence at the country level. Much of the evidence were much more global analysis, which I think we are missing some context that we presented in the paper. So I think it's possible, because now that at least when you have such a journal as political conservation accepting such a manuscript, I think it's a good starting point towards having, resolving some of these inequalities and ethical practices, which, as we say, is part of the broader production science tendencies, which have really dominated field of conservation biology and biodiversity conservation. So it's part of structural problem, which has existed for quite some time, especially since the 1990s, when we had increased number of foreign researchers coming to research in Tanzania, and also because of the increased interest for electricity conservation in Tanzania, and but also it's not only structural in this part of the world, in Tanzania, but also it's also related to some of the structural and systemic rules in the north. For instance, some universities in the north, they have a policy where, for instance, for a PhD candidate prove that he or she has the capacity to be an academic writer, he or she has to have at least a single author paper. So if such a student comes to Tanzania, and with such a rule in our or his university, then that's happening. So it's just part of the bigger structural systemic problem that I think need to be understood, and we need to have collective efforts as academics from both sides of the world trying to address this.
So, a few years ago when we started with open access publications, I was very happy because I didn't have the same coordinators to my Tanzanian students free of charge. But now, we more or less have no open academies and open access. And each publication was somewhere $1,500 how do you copy that in Africa or in Tanzania? Where we don't have any grants or anything else. We start limiting your way of publications. Okay, for us, it's not a problem because my university, they pay for it. But here, in Tanzania, you don't have any grants to pay for it. So how do you copy this?
Thank you, Prof. That was probably the last one from the floor. Before giving it to Peter, it's a little bit on the benefit sharing, which is a policy issue that comes from the community. We wanted to comment on fundraising.
Thank you, Chair. Very small fundraising, funding for conservation. I think when we ask to mention challenges now, the other room, your room chair, the very important debate about human rights conflict. But I think funding is a challenge which is science is going like it's not unnoticed. Consider 4 bucks supporting, I don't know, IT. There is no really, sustainability prospects. I've been to some of the Western African countries. This question is pathetic. No single cent is being collected, and it is called a protected area. In my presentation, of course, I was really going to take, but there are what they call paper packs. Packs that are just on paper. They've been a lot, especially in Africa. So I don't in terms of, money for running these parks if it's not us. I don't know if it's economists or ministers of finance or whatever, but I think it is critical issue at policy level that we start at least talking about it, because what I saw here is that we are shying away as if it's not an issue to go to the ground, but this is heavily impacting our protected area system. So what I'm proposing is high time that it's put on table from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Tourism. I don't think anybody else will raise that if it's not ourselves. I'm sure it surpasses some of what we call conservation challenges that we talk about every day. So people like Mozambique who have already gone into that. The invitation on the something on financing was meant to stimulate that talk. Not necessarily talk about African parks, but to stimulate that talk on a broader sense. I know we have an officer here from Tanapa. She knows what I'm talking about. It's hard to manage a protected area without finance. 80% of money that the manager will spend on site would be on making rangers work, around 40%, and another 40% of fine on infrastructure, roads, bridges, whatever. Now these are big projects. You don't expect $12 entrance fee to fund a road. Selling extension park as 1,400 network for 1,400 kilometers road network. From Dar es Salaam to Arusha is 600 kilometers. So you can imagine he's charged also to make all these roads to ensure visitor whatever, to ensure smooth running of the vehicles, a lot of complications. So I want to ask you colleagues also consider that this is an issue, and that's why we put it as a sub-thing in this particular workshop, and we can continue to exchange. But I think in 10, 15 years, you will realize that it will be perhaps the biggest challenge. Thank you.
Chairman, I'm just commenting on that.
I'm not allowed you.
You should allow me because it is very important that it's raising something that Tanzanians are very, very worried to talk about. Financing conservation. We are very, very careful about other issues, but conservation, how much money are we collecting and how much is going back to conservation? In the past, the same Tanaka you are talking about was collecting funds and they were able to have their budget. And later on, politics come in and all the money is going to the central system, which is okay. But how much is going back? And who can tell the central system that this what better thing you are designing is killing the conservation? We are silent. Now, what I think we should do in these 60 years of conservation in Africa, we must come out with a very good, wise, and strong message to the government that we love in this continent, that we need another big workshop where you researchers are going to bring the science of conservation. How much do we need per square kilometer to conserve Serengeti? How much do we need to conserve Arusha National Park? How much do we need? Because we don't need to conserve for money. That, okay, this, someone represented this morning, that if the park is not producing anything, we better do away with it. That is wrong thinking. It's totally wrong thinking. So now we need to have, don't send my friend Professor delegation. They will fire him tomorrow. We want a strong scientist, a strong science group, a forum which can talk science issues and we stand for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Prof, for inviting yourself. That was good. But I think those who are in government, where the discussion was, but also not necessarily government, I'm sure there are many issues that may come out of these discussions. What we would expect, the way forward here, what we would expect is that somehow there is going to be competition policymakers, seeing this is what came out of it. It could be in the form of a policy brief or whatever means, at least to communicate back, saying, this is what happened during the 6 years anniversary of Mweka. Those who were there felt these were the key issues that need to be addressed. I think that would be, having said that, I'm going to really invite more questions. There's going to be one-to-one discussion at some point. This morning we were invited for a cocktail party, which I'm sure is still there. So we could have, a one-to-one sort of discussion.
Thank you. In Tanzania, the benefit sharing framework has adopted a hybrid approaches as implemented by different conservation authorities that we have, like Tanzania national parks. They share 7.5% of its annual operational budget in national form outright associations through their state assemblies so that they can protect and also benefit from wildlife resources in these designated areas that they have put together and to form this model of protection. And apart from that, wildlife including in village areas, communities can also benefit from these wildlife resources. And if there's any photographic tourism activity or happening in these areas, the revenue that is collected is particular areas. We also have regulations and wildlife resources and what the government does.
Towards chairs for a brief reception for the announcement. Discuss that for an hour also. Are you from Uganda? Yeah, it's a very complicated issue. This one. I mean, different Kenya, Tanzania, different, and the like. Zambia, the chiefs. Malawi also, they started and broke the campfire. I don't know, it's very, very wide, but this is Mario is doing a PhD on the same issues. So I think you are in the right hands. Similarly, we get any other topic that we think we need to contact whoever represents, I think it's an important venue or not anything that is of interest to this particular symposium. Saying so, I would like also to announce tomorrow we start 9 sharp. The model will be the same. We start here and go break out groups. We join just like today. So I ask and urge all people to be sharp so that we don't run into time issues like today. Thank you very much, and the meeting